All right, so what we're going to be looking at here is video of Michael Brooks from the Majority Report. I believe he was hosting the Majority Report for the day, and he was taking live calls. Now, this live call that Michael Brooks has with said person, the person is a little bit weird, by the way, but basically the caller calls in to speak about Jimmy Dore and the whole Majority Report versus Jimmy Dore whole type thing. It's the guy's claims are going to be sort of all over the place, and it looks like he sort of modifies his claims as time elapses during the clip. But I'm going to show this to you guys. I'm going to sort of clip up the important parts of this so you guys can see this. But basically, they're going to get into it. It's going to get a little bit heated. Not too heated, but it'll get a little bit heated. And they're going to discuss about Jimmy Dore. Michael Brooks is going to explain his disagreements with Jimmy Dore, and he's going to do something kind of surprising in the middle of it, which I hope you guys pay attention to. But I want you guys to check it out, and we'll come back and talk about it.
The show yesterday was the funniest ever. Now, I don't mean just Sam Cedar shows. I mean all YouTube. But nice. Now, that being said,
yes,
Jimmy Dore is different from you in three ways, and I'll tell you three ways you're different. Okay. Number one, honestly, he's funnier. And these are all subjective.
You are so close to getting hung up on right now, dude.
Should have led with that, man.
Should not have led with that. So now you're on a clock. You have 30 seconds left to finish the rest of your points. And begin.
Fine.
30,
okay.
29.
He's enraging, and he inspires people to give money, and he inspires me and many of my friends to give money to these non-corporate Democrats. You guys are more serious, but when you talk about Lula, I'm not reaching for my checkbook to give AOC any money. And I hope that you guys won't spend so much time defining yourself as a contrast to Jimmy Dore. But my second thing is, can you do another impression? I love you. That's great.
No. But look, but let me tell you where you're wrong. So,
fine.
First of all, the Lula coverage should inspire you to open your checkbook up for non-corporate Democrats. Brian Muir actually explained that brilliantly today. And you can write, you know what you should do is you should write a check to Mark Pocan for, if you can, for $50 and save a note and say, thank you for speaking out on behalf of Brazil and for freeing Lula. That's what you should do. And the thing is
he goes on Tom Hartman.
Sorry?
I do. He goes on Tom Hartman every Wednesday.
Right. So great. And in addition to that, look, the beef with Jimmy Dore, and it's funny, even Matt just set it off mic, but even what you just framed, like, it's consumptive. We're not trying to be, and I know we have a reputation as being the most smug and arrogant show on YouTube, which is awesome and hilarious to me. I kind of care in the sense that I think it's funny. And I'm definitely funnier, and that in and of itself definitely undermines your credibility. But I'll try to go out on a limb with you, even though
I'm just a jerk off caller.
Hey, well, you're like a Scientologist. You're so delusional. But no, but let me just say this. The difference is there is actually what people don't understand, and if you recall, there was a period of time where I did stuff with Jimmy Dore. And I honestly, if right after 2016, he didn't even have to say, in my opinion, I might not be totally on the same page with Sam. If after 2016 happened, he completely turned his focus to dealing with fascism and continuing to support non-corporate Democrats and all the rest. But the endless whataboutism, the endless false equivalencies, the endless moralism, and the endless just focus on electoralism is bullshit, and it's substantively wrong. It's miseducating people about how to think about politics. And so if there was a dude who did a show that was less wonky than ours, that was less, whatever the fuck, and but conveying the same message about power and strategy and capitalism, that would be awesome. I would give it nothing but props, and I'd continue to want to collaborate with him. And even the way you speak about Brazil, I'm sorry, dude, doing a fucking uncritical piece of coverage. This guy will do bullshit and then does a credulous segment about a far-right fascist facilitating project which is imprisoning, I'm sorry, dude, one of the most important leaders on our planet. And if you don't care about that, we're not on the same team. I mean, these are substantive problems. If the guy was just more like meat and potatoes, that's fucking awesome. In fact, that's needed. And that has never been the beef, ever. It's in substance, period.
And by the way, as far as I know, Jimmy Dore does not support Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
No, well, he helped her. He had her on his show in the beginning when she ran for office, and he helped her, and that's great. I'm glad he does that. I think he also had on Connie Ella Ng. That's a good thing that he does. Now, I don't think it's a good thing that he immediately starts trashing her, which is probably what Jamie's referring to, as soon as she says like the most innocuous thing about anything. And also, to put your gun sights on Andrew Gillum right now in the context of the race he's in and the implications for voting rights, 2020, not to mention the racial dynamics of it.
Cui bono there.
Yeah, very fucking stupid. So these are substantive things. They have nothing to do with how much you curse, how much you hate, Neera Tanden or Hillary Clinton. Nothing to do with whether or not you want to be wonky or not. You know what? He could have done the same Brazil segment. He could have looked out and he said, hey, Brian Meir, he's talking about U.S. CIA and corporate influence in Brazil. That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about. Let me have him on for 6 minutes to explain why TYT giving positive coverage to car wash and the mainstream media is bullshit and we should be supporting the Workers' Party. That's actually his fucking mandate. So that's the beef, man.
This is why. This is why your show is great. You have a sense of criticism, I think, unrivaled by anybody. Maybe jank, but that's a maybe at best. This is why I like your show. But his show is hilarious. I'm sorry.
Well, that's cool. But we can honestly, all kidding aside, that's cool. That's cool. You think is funny. That's great. I mean, I'll joke about that all day, but that's totally secondary. The beef in this show has nothing to do with his comedy. I've done comedy bits with Jimmy. I think Jimmy is a funny, entertaining, and interpersonally, in my experience, nice guy. But for all of the substantive reasons he outlined, those are problems in how you're doing politics. And I'm not trying to create broad reactive populism. I'm trying to create a left path to saving democracy and generating some type of what we call socialism, which means different things to different people. But that's an actual thing. And a major part of that thing is building alliances across lines that include not unnecessarily alienating people who, as an example, might support Andrew Gillum. And it also includes recognizing that in today's world, the primary threat is the fucking fascists running it, not something that John Edwards said in 2009 that you can make a clip about to do a false equivalency. That's bullshit. It's wrong. And it's substantively wrong. And if he swears and he's less wonky, that's great.
Not to mention,
okay, then you have to admit that he's the Fox News on the left.
No,
and
I don't.
What? Fox News
no,
works.
He's not. Fox News helps win. Fox News has a strategy. Fox News is fucking relentless. Do you think Fox News would do over 70% of their clips? If they were Fox News of the left, then Fox News would have killed Trump, and they would have done segments every day on how he's not a real conservative and he's a sellout. He's not Fox News on the left at all. If you mean stylistically, maybe so. And I keep telling you, that's the part I like and have no problem with.
Stylistically and pragmatically.
Not pragmatically. Not at all. Not at all. Dude, we got to let you go.
As far as I know, Jimmy does not have any kind of coherent socialist ideology, analysis, or tactics.
He doesn't even have it's
really,
not even a coherent.
I should be calling him a sellout.
It's fucking sellout.
If you look at what he said about...
It's not coherent progressive, sorry.
Hashtag mind of ICE employees, he used this when he said... Basically, because people were like, well, Jimmy, isn't ICE a problem for your analysis about the Dems being the same as Republicans? He said, well, it's the lower level employees of ICE who really should bear the blame because they're following orders, which, like, I'm all down for, like, the whole following orders thing, but you're blaming the local workforce and not the power structure that you said wouldn't be a difference.
Because you need to build a scaffolding to justify your stupid false equivalencies, and that's more exciting to people instead of the simple We need something that's not Hillary or Trump. It transcends this whole corrupt, rotted system, and the relative choices are obvious. One is less damaging than the other, and that's less exciting, and it makes less dumb people flock and freak out on social media, but it also happens to be true.
So as you guys saw there, Michael Brooks went into his disagreements with Jimmy Dore, but he also, as I explained, in which I stated, I hope you guys paid attention to, he also gave him props there, but we'll get into that later. So first, I want to say that in the beginning, Michael Brooks sort of seemed to get ticked off. I don't know if he was joking or not. Visibly, it didn't seem like he was joking around. It seemed like he was being like legit serious. And so, assuming that what I saw was true, if he was really mad, I mean, I don't know why Michael Brooks, sort of got ticked off by that. If somebody thinks that Jimmy Dore's comedy is, better than yours, not only is it really irrelevant, to be honest, but comedy is entirely subjective. And so I don't understand what the big deal is. That's really my only disagreement with what Michael Brooks essentially said. But the whole difference in comedy thing, I don't really get why Michael Brooks got worked up about that. But as you guys saw there, he sort of went into detail about what his criticisms of Jimmy Dore was. And basically, I think that it's sort of a multi-pronged thing. So first off, I want to say that as you guys saw there, he made it clear that Jimmy is, a funny guy. He used to, he's worked with Jimmy, and he thinks that he's a nice guy, and he doesn't have a problem with the mannerisms of his show, but rather that all of his disagreements are substance-based. So for anybody who is somebody who's a really big Jimmy Dore fan and is just inclined to just sort of hate on what Michael Brooks said there, you definitely shouldn't, because as you guys just saw, obviously he was giving props to Jimmy Dore and basically, making it clear that the issues that he has with Jimmy are not really personal, but rather substance-based. That's essentially what it was. So he makes a few good points here that I thought. So the brunt of the video is Jimmy Dore the Fox News of the left? And I felt that Michael had a pretty solid response, in my opinion, because I really don't think that I don't see how Jimmy would qualify as being the Fox News of the left, but he made a really good point. And the point that Michael was trying to convey was basically that the Fox News is essentially the arm for the right wing, right? They are the arm for the Republican Party, specifically speaking. Fox News, the constant aim and goal of Fox News is to get people to take action, get people to go out and vote, and get people to go and help the Republican Party, grow and gain more power. And what Michael's essentially saying is Jimmy Dore's not the Fox News of the left, because that's not what Jimmy Dore is doing. And I think he's made this interesting claim that basically what Jimmy Dore does is fundamentally anti-politics, which basically means that what Jimmy Dore does effectively results in a basic nothing. Like nothing happens based off what he does. And it makes sense, because basically what you're doing is you have right now elections going on. Like you have Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis, right? And so if you're just going to completely shit on Andrew Gillum, and even though I agree on some of those criticisms, basically in Jimmy Dore making his crazy statements, like saying that, the progressive takeover of the Democratic Party is not happening, and basically declaring that we need to abandon the Democratic Party, which in turn also means abandoning Justice Democrats, which is stupid, very dumb, and dangerous to the movement. Basically, what that ends up resulting in is a standstill. It ends up in nothing. So this next coming election cycle, let's say that, you're someone who follows Jimmy Dore. Are you motivated to vote? Of course not. Of course you're not. Because the system is, right now, third parties are very, marginal, right? And so you have to know a lot of info about the third parties to actually go out and vote for them. And so sort of the position that you end up being in is just, just fuck it. The system is fucked. There's no point. Just time to just throw in the towel, and I'm not going to go vote because both sides are bad. And he's not even really effectively riling up any third parties or anything like that. He's not actually doing that. Like if he were to be some sort of like Fox News of the left, he would have to be making it so that he's constantly aiding a third party in some way. When really that's not what he's doing. Really, he's just being essentially a contrarian to the Democratic Party, pretty much. And it effectively ends up in people losing hope, people believing that the system is so done that they're just not going to participate anymore because that's how discouraged they are. And so I think that analysis of Jimmy Dore is so spot on. It's unbelievable, honestly. I think that essentially hits the bullseye mark because Jimmy Dore, especially, and I can't stop saying this because I still can't comprehend that Jimmy Dore made this statement, and he made it on multiple occasions, by the way, not just one time. In the critique of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in which I was in agreement with him, where he said, hey, this guy's being a total douchebag, and he's saying, the progressive movement isn't even a ripple, and just basically completely shitting over the entire progressive movement. And then she does it, honestly, is it really even considered an endorsement at this point? It's like a 5-second thing, and it was super vague, and that's what their campaign claimed. But let's assume that it is, right? I agree with that criticism. I don't think she should have done that. I don't think there was any need to. I think there was no purpose in that. But to then go to the conclusion that basically, it's time to abandon the Democratic Party and that the progressive takeover by the Justice Democrats is not happening, dude, that's horrible. That's unbelievably horrible. And that is so toxic to the movement, I can't even explain how toxic it is. And I've gone into deep depths about why Jimmy's idea of just straight up abandoning the Democratic Party is a horrible idea. And that includes a lot of different things. So Bernie Sanders says, we need to get a grassroots movement going. And Jimmy Dore responds saying, this needs to happen outside of the Democratic Party, meaning that it's time to completely abandon the Democratic Party, which means you're going to be abandoning the Justice Democrats who have been massively successful up until this point. And basically, that would be such a neutering to the movement. It's honestly to the left, to the real progressive left. It's pretty insane. But he could not be more wrong on that. So I think that, supporting someone like Tim Canova in Florida, I'm fully behind Tim Canova. I fully endorse him. I hate Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Fuck Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I am in full support of Tim Canova. Great candidate, and he is eons above anyone. Is eons above DWS pretty much. But the point essentially here being that I can say that while also at the same time knowing that the Justice Democrats is the way forward. The way forward is a progressive takeover of the Democratic Party. The way forward is not to completely abandon it and go third party, because we are in a system in which third parties are disadvantaged from the jump. And so not only are you going to take so much time just trying to get that third party to be successful, because you have to do things like ballot access, and don't forget about getting people in presidential debates, but the amount of time that would take in comparison to what Justice Democrats are already doing with getting 26 candidates, it's insane. I mean, it's insanity. If you're honestly going to advocate for that, not only can I not take you seriously, but you're a danger to the movement. That's what you are, because you're basically saying it's time to, totally ditch the Democratic Party, which is unacceptable. It's ridiculous. After all of the success that we've seen with the Justice Democrats, the idea of abandoning the Democratic Party is so unbelievably stupid that I can't even begin to, I have obviously, but there's no way to fully, put out how bad of an idea that is. So he basically he referenced the sort of what he said in there also was that, like whenever something will happen, Jimmy will sort of pull out some like random clip from 2009 of some Democrat saying something. That's also a pretty accurate thing. That honestly is a pretty accurate thing. There are other sort of progressives who do that type of thing too, with these sort of dumb false equivalencies. But the idea, and I already did a deep dive essentially into the Jimmy Dore Sam Cedar debate, as well as Jimmy Dore's analysis and what he called his theory of what would occur under a Donald Trump presidency. And I went into depth about how it was pretty much all wrong, like almost all definitionally empirically false. One of the worst claims ever made in political history is that the Democrats could filibuster more than multiple Supreme Court justices. Not just one, but 2 Supreme Court vacancies they could filibuster until the next president comes, or for 2 years until they're able to get the Senate back so they don't have to filibuster anymore. That is so dumb. I can't even believe it. I can't even believe how dumb that is. Because obviously there were so many things that he didn't take into account. First of all, no matter what, that's not going to happen. The media is not going to allow that to happen. The Republican Party wouldn't allow that to happen. And of course, the Democratic Party, would never be able to actually hold that up. They'd never actually be able to do that. They're not able to do that. And then you have the dinos like Joe Manchin, who voted for both Gorsuch and for Kavanaugh. So, and then on top of that, it's numerically impossible for them to filibuster, because they took down the filibuster rule. Now cloture, all you need is 50 votes. You don't need 60 anymore. So what happens when you change the rules and make it to cloture being 50 instead of 60? Well, we don't have, they have 50 votes. We don't have 50 or more. We don't have 51. We have 49. So what does that mean? We're going to have to get Republicans to flip just to get out of debate. Well, that's not going to happen, as we know and as we see. So I think that I think Michael's criticisms are pretty much on point here. He also got into some of the sort of Brazil election stuff as well. But honestly, if you are somebody who considers yourself rational, I would recommend that you take this and really think about it, because as he made clear in that, he's not somebody who has anything personal against Jimmy Dore, and he doesn't really have anything against sort of the mannerisms of his show, but rather the substance of Jimmy Dore on specific issues. And in my opinion, he's totally rational. I can totally understand why. So let me know your thoughts down below.